People, this is Vybz Kartel, as you know, and since recently I've been seeing a lot of things in the media as it relates to Vybz Kartel performing in Trinidad.
Welcome to Owen Allen Media. Vybz Kartel issued a public statement regarding the situation that has been happening, where it is said that he's been banned from Trinidad and appearing in certain places. So check out the video.
People, big up to the outgoing government. Congratulations to the new government. Jacob, I've known you for years. Do better, sir.
Can you help us?
Good afternoon. We are not fearful of any backlash. That's the first thing.
Welcome to Owen Allen Media. So in a bold and controversial decision, Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Kamla Persad has admitted she was behind the push to restrict King of Dancehall Vybz Kartel from engaging with school children and participating in local media while visiting the country for his upcoming concert. The Prime Minister made the revelation during a post-cabinet briefing following public backlash over Defense Minister Wayne Sturge's announcement that to limit Vybz Kartel movement. Now, here's the shocking part, right? Not only did the minister restrict the artist from multiple public appearances, including a school visit and press interviews, but now we know that the Prime Minister orchestrated. It was a government move from the very top. According to the Prime Minister, Persad, while Kartel has the rights, there is no absolute freedom, and the government must prioritize what she calls the right of the community. I don't even know what that means, right? This is what I know. There's always someone waving the moral compass around, deciding what's right or wrong based on their own personal values, and they disguise it as concern for the children, but really and truly they're weaponizing the kids to justify their own agenda. And that's how I see it. They're talking about Kartel have an agenda, they have their own agenda. Now, Minister Wayne Sturge was initially seen as the one spearheading the restrictions against Vybz Kartel. On the surface, his rationale was concern for the youths, right? Youth exposure, given Vybz Kartel past legal troubles and everything. Now, the Prime Minister recent admission reveals that she personally directed the clampdown, saying she would not allow Kartel to speak to school children or appear on the TV. Minister Surge later elaborated in the briefing, insisting that Trinidad simply is exercising his legal discretion and is not concerned about any backlash from Jamaica. He pointed out that other countries like St. Kitts and Nevis have similarly blocked Trinidadian artists. This is what he said.
Vybz Kartel matter.
Oh, I see my minister.
Yes. Well, we are a member of CARICOM and we do have good relationship with Jamaica. Is the government fearful of any backlash now limiting Vybz Kartel, or the limits that they have put on the visit by Vybz Kartel?
Minister, can you help us?
Good afternoon. We are not fearful of any backlash. That's the first thing. Several of our neighbors have the very same legislative provisions, which their respective ministers have exercised to, in some instances, to refuse entry to Trinidadian artists. So there's no backlash because it's a discretion that has to be exercised. In this instance, not only in the best interests of the country as a whole, but more particularly, one has to have regard to the interest of children, having regard to our treaty obligations under the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which we've incorporated into our laws, and having regard to the material that is contained in some of the songs. So the protection of the children must be paramount.
And Vybz Kartel has come out publicly and stated that he is reformed and that his tours and his talks with the young population now is about reform and, of course, not leading that type of life anymore. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't expect him to say that he's not reformed. But he has his own agenda. I also don't wish to say that I don't believe him, but we have to act on the basis of evidence. Mr. Kartel, before his conviction was overturned, made several attempts to be freed on the basis of ill health, stating that he was close to death's door, and if he was not released, he would die in prison. The moment he was released, he made a miraculous recovery. But one of the things one has to take into account is this, and I am mindful of the fact that he is saying he wants to speak with the youth to have them stay away from a life of crime and so on. But his conviction was not overturned on the merits. It was overturned on the basis of juror misconduct, so that the credibility and reliability of the evidence led against him at trial was not in any way undermined. And the Jamaican Court of Appeal, who decided not to order a retrial, did so on public policy considerations, and their decision in no way affected the creditworthiness or reliability of the evidence led at trial. So it would be wrong, in my view, having regard to my remit, and we've not made a decision just yet. What exists now is a draft order, which is a working document, and we have not met with all of the stakeholders. We still have to meet with the SIU, and there are legal opinions that were sought that would have to be taken in the round before we come to a decision. But what we must not do is give the impression that we are giving legitimacy to someone who only recently was released from death row for murder and whose conviction was not overturned on the merits.
Okay, and finally, has anyone from the Jamaican government reached out to you since that order, or since you have made that statement?
I have not had any sort of information from, I believe it should come through the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I have not been told so.
This is not about morality or national security. What we are witnessing is a political stunt wrapped in the language of public protection. This newly appointed minister and prime minister, they're under pressure, right? And they're using Vybz Kartel name to score political points. Plain and simple. Vybz Kartel is a cultural giant for Jamaica, and anytime his name is on something, it stirs emotion, and they know that. So, but let's and they're just pretending that they're protecting the kids. No, Vybz Kartel visited Trinidad and Tobago before, promote his rum, no issues, no ban, no press briefing. So why no? Because it's a calculated move. They're using a man who regained his freedom as a scapegoat, treating him like a threat, even though the highest court, the UK-based Privy Council, overturned his murder conviction, and the Jamaican Court of Appeal ruled against a retrial. That means, in the eyes of the law, right, Vybz Kartel is a free man and he's not charged. But for some reason, his reputation continues to be dragged through the mud, especially when he tries to re-enter the spotlight. Not just as an artist, but as Adidja Palmer, as a voice for something meaningful, right? And here's the real danger. This is becoming a pattern, because across the Caribbean, Barbados already tried to shut him out. Now Guyana is banning his music, and Trinidad is restricting his voice. It begs the question, why is Vybz Kartel being treated like this? That is the question. Why? Right? Where's the Jamaican voice? Where's the Minister of Entertainment? We need Jamaican leadership to step in and publicly defend Vybz Kartel, one of Jamaica's most cultural and influential figures, right? We need them to step in and address this issue, and for them to stop treating Vybz Kartel like a criminal. It's not about one concert or the other. It's about the respect of Jamaica, respect of Jamaican acts, and the right for reform individuals to move forward, right? You can't say you're for Caribbean unity, for integration, for cultural exchange, and all of these things, and then you're going to blacklist a man who has done more to inspire, elevate poor youths across the Caribbean and across the region than most of you politicians ever will. And let's be clear, Vybz Kartel is not the enemy of the youth. He's the mirror, right? He speaks the language that the youths understand, and right now with his transformation, he has the potential to guide the youths, to the right, to spearhead them in the right direction, because he has that power, and because and the reason I believe that the politicians want to block him out is because these politicians don't have the power that Vybz Kartel have. They don't have the voice that Vybz Kartel have, and the youths won't listen to them because they have failed the youths so many times, right? And that is just the truth, and that is just that. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. You know what I mean? That would be the video for today. Owen Allen Media. We keep you informed.